and welcome back to Shelf Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of female founders bringing their product-based businesses to retail shelves. I'm your host, Roberta, and today I am super thrilled to be joined by the bold and unstoppable Molly Blakeley, the powerhouse behind Molly Bees, the gourmet cookie brand that's really redefining indulgence one outrageous flavor at a time. Molly isn't just baking cookies, she is literally rewriting the rules on what's possible when you bet on yourself and never take no for an answer. Her journey is really filled with a lot of hustle, a lot of heart, and definitely a lot of laughter. This is a founder who turned $150 and a will to be able to support her son and take care of herself into a standout brand that's stocked in major stores across the country, all starting just in 2018. I really can't wait for you to hear how she built this brand all from the ground up, how she entered a category that one would think would be oversaturated, no room for newness within cookies, and really created something unique and different in that set. So I'm excited for you to hear her story. So let's dive in. Hi, Molly. I am so excited to have you here. Thanks so much for coming on Shelf Talks.
Thank you for having me. I'm in my super casual because I'm on vacation right now. So don't judge. This is me getting ready to get some sunshine today.
Really appreciate you coming on in the midst of your vacation.
Hey, no problem.
So let's just kind of dive in. I'm excited to hear your story. So if you could just start off and tell us, like, what were you doing before actually launching your brand?
Well, I used to be like a business developer. I would start and sell businesses, and some of them would flop, and some of them I would sell for 10x. It just depended on the business, but it was all done in this little tiny town in Alaska called Soldotna. And I grew up with entrepreneurial parents, so I just thought that's what life was about. I just thought you were supposed to do businesses. So I didn't know there was another way around it, really, truly. My last deal, I owned a 200-seat bar and restaurant that was attached to a 33-room Alaska lodge. And I actually sold that to someone that I knew, and they ended up frauding me. So they wanted me to owner finance. I agreed to it. They said, do you mind putting the building in our name so we can remodel it? And I was like, sure, because I knew these people. And then they never paid me. So it was crazy. And I was down to my last $150. And I had a house, and I had I was a single mom, and I had a car payment, and I was going to lose everything. So I just started making super weird gourmet cookies, and I did it like a cookie of the month club. And I had like 30 years background because my parents owned restaurants, and then I owned restaurants. So I knew how to pivot, but I needed to figure it out fast, So yeah. I just started making weird gourmet cookies, and I did it like 20 boxes a week, and then it went to 45 boxes a day after like 3 months, and I had to move production into like a church kitchen. And then from there, I moved to the big city of Anchorage, and because I was starting to sell so many in stores at that point, and when one bakery helped me, then two, then three, then four, then I found myself like Googling cookie factory, thinking about Willy Wonka style. I'm like, I need help.
Wait a minute. So just going back to just even determining that cookies was something that you wanted to get into, was that something you were passionate about prior? Had you always made cookies on the side?
No, I always burned cookies. My family, we would get the cookie dough, and I would always forget about them and end up burning them. And my kids would be like, just let us do the cookies, Mom. And so it was just like a fight or flight mode, when you have no choice. Yeah, it just kind of fell into our lap that way. And crumble wasn't even a thing yet. And so when I was looking, at the time where I started getting into co-packers and stuff, when I found out that a cookie factory was called a co-packer, and I was looking for them, I got 100 no's in a row. Like, no one wanted to put Fruity Pebbles on a cookie. No one wanted to do bacon on a cookie. Like, they all told me basically that I was crazy. Well, I knew I wasn't crazy because they were selling a lot in Alaska. So I was like, I just have to find the right partner. So I cold called the same 100 people the next day. I got 100 no's again. And then the third day, about the 50th or 60th call I made, was these guys in North Carolina. And they said, yes, we'll do it if you stop calling us. I'll take it. So, I'm a stage 5 clinger until I get a yes. And so that's what happened. And it worked. And so then it was, proof of concept. And I went on QVC and ended up doing really well. And Then we launched into stores, and then they used us for the Emmys, the Grammys, the Oscar bags, and Super Bowl. And I don't know, it's just been crazy. Now we're in all kinds of over 3,000 locations and growing I mean, by the end of this year, we'll probably be in about, I'd say double that, like 6,000 locations at least. Yeah.
So when you started to sell them in Alaska, were you selling them on a website?
I was on my Facebook just hustling, like, who's having a birthday? Who wants cookies? Send, you know, it's just like whatever I could figure out to do. But I did start like a little Wix website, you know, that I had, and people. That's how I went from 45 dozen, from 20 dozen a week to 45 dozen a day, because I was on this Cookie of the Month club on a website called Crate Joy, and I had found out about them because I googled, like, I think the Kardashians were doing like sock of the month, like Rob Kardashian was doing a sock of the month club. And I thought I should do a cookie of the month club. So that's what I did. And then from Crate Joy, BuzzFeed actually was doing some sort of write up on the best boxes to get for Christmas. And I was number 3 out of 24 from the Crate
Wow.
Joy site. And that kind of like made me think, this is something bigger than the plain brick and mortars I've done my whole life. I said, I'm going to do a national brand this time. I could see the momentum and how exciting it was getting. And then
Yeah.
when COVID happened, that actually just made people want to eat more indulgent foods. Like they were like, well, if I'm going to die, it's going to be with a cookie in both hands. I'm going down, you know, so that really helped me, you know? And so then I went from 1 co-packer to 2 co-packers, and now we work with 8. And so, yeah, it's just incredible. And I still, to this day, don't sell my cookies in Alaska because
Oh, really?
no production is in Alaska. So to ship them here is like 50 cents extra a cookie because, I mean, we're way up here. So, you know, that's a thing.
So when you went from making them in your home to then finding that co-packer in North Carolina that you continuously called until they said yes, was it hard for them to then replicate what you were already making at home?
Yes, absolutely. Because it goes from being a recipe and they're like, well, send us your formula. And I'm like, my formula? I'm like, I'll send you this, like, it's 3 cups of flour. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, and a teaspoon of this. And they're like, no, Molly, that's not how. And then I'm like, well, just double it and double it and double it. Like, if we need to make like enough cookies to do a QPC, like, what, can't you just times it by 20 or 100 or whatever? And they're like, what in the world have we gotten ourselves into? But they did it and they helped me through it and we did it. So
Oh, that's great. So it was a partner that was able to like help a startup and
they were
really
pretty
getting.
patient with me for sure.
Yeah.
You know, we just exited from them this year. They're going to be doing their own brand now. I feel like I inspired them. Now we left them and now we're with other places.
So you talked a little bit about being in like the Emmy basket or
Yeah.
how did you even get into something like that?
Craziest thing. Sometimes on emails, you get all this spam mail, and every once in a while, I'll look to see if there's anything that isn't good that I spammed maybe years ago. And it was something, it's just at Oscars. And I thought, what in the world? And so I just clicked on it
Right.
and it said, we did some due diligence and found that you were ranked in the internet as one of the best cookies in the nation, and we wanted to know if you'd like to have your cookies in the Oscars gifting suite. So I was like, there's no way this is real because it's in my spam, you know, there's just like, this isn't real. And
Right.
so I ended up going on their website and then calling people that were on their website and say, did you really do this? And they had, and it was real. So when I went to that, I didn't know anybody. Like it was a bunch of producers and like movies in the Oscars are kind of a little more sophisticated than I am. So I was just like, do you want a cookie? And they're like, sure. And so it was like that. It was like that. And so I took pictures with them and then I put it on my social media and would tag them. Some of them made like little videos with me. Some of them made videos for me and put it on their platforms, and things just kind of exploded. Once that one went so well, then it was like, well, do you want to do the Grammys? And then after that, I was like, well, do you want to do, you know, the Emmys and the international Emmys and MTV Music Awards? And like, it just was like, we want Molly everywhere. So, I mean, it's really crazy, but yeah, I go to all these things right now. There was a moment that I was invited to a women's Forbes event and an Emmys event on the same weekend, and I had to choose one. And do you know what I did? I didn't do either of them. I went to my son's football game because I thought,
More
you know what,
important.
family first.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely more important.
What a weird, crazy life.
So when did you decide, or was it always in your mind that you wanted to go into retail stores?
Oh no. I knew when BuzzFeed did that shout out, I said to myself, this is something bigger than what I realized, and I'm never going to do a brick and mortar again. So I guess I'm just going to turn around and do a national brand. And I didn't know what that looked like. So I really focused on building the brand. Once I got the recognition from BuzzFeed, then the Oscars, and then I just started trying out for everything. Like the clickbait on Facebook, there was something about Forbes on there, so I was like, I'll try out for that. And they were looking for something for their startup hub, and then I didn't hear from them. So every single thing I applied and applied and applied for it, and then randomly Forbes calls me, and they're like, "Hey, we've done the due diligence of your business, and we're doing this startup, and we just have some more questions for you." And I thought, okay, this is so weird. Is this spam? Like, are they real? Like, I don't know what's happening. And so they interviewed me, and then they said, if you're chosen, you'll get an email tomorrow that'll say you've made it or whatever. And sure enough, I got the email. So I went to Detroit, and I was one of the top 150 startups of 2019. And I got to go to the Detroit Startup Hub for a 30 under 30 summit. I'm like, I am not under 30. And they're like, no, it's okay. It's a startup hub. So it was fun. And I met so many influencers there. Some I still am really good friends with. Just good people. People are people no matter what they're doing.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I mean, you started this product that is definitely a differentiator in the market, and it just seemed like it just explodes in regards to like people wanting it and getting more and more exposure. Just
Yeah. It's been a blessing.
yeah. So then when it came to retail, what were kind of your first steps into even having a retail strategy or thinking about what you wanted to do for that first step?
Sure. So the first retail place was actually in Alaska, and I went to this like pitching competition thing. And when I was there was a store there that came to me after the pitching thing and said, "Do you have your UPC codes and do you have your nutrition labels?" I didn't. And I'm like, "Yeah, of course, sure, no problem." And she said, "Well, we would like to launch you in all 21 of our locations," which in Alaska, to have a chain of 21 locations is really big. And so I was like, great, let's go. So then immediately I went home and like figured out how to get UPC codes and nutrition labels, and people that had that information would tell me they didn't know how to do it because they didn't want to help me. Like all of a sudden they felt like it was like competition or
Competition.
something. Yeah, and I thought, why would they do that? That's so weird. So I made a promise to myself that day and said, there's no way in the world if I ever make it big that I'm not going to help people know how to do it too. And so that's my whole goal in life, is just to let people know you can completely start your life over at 45, 50, whatever it looks like. And you can still do big things. And
I love
so
that.
I help everyone. I actually mentor over about 120 women and men with their businesses. And I don't charge a dime. I just help them. And I love it.
I love that. And that's just,
Yeah.
I mean, giving back just allows for you to get more and more blessings. So I love that.
I'm proof of that,
Yeah. So how did you even figure out how to get UPCs and labels and all the
Google.
right
Google is
packaging?
my best friend. I just Googled everything, and so far so good, And
Everything's on
then
the internet.
yes, and then when I got the nutrition labels and everything, I found out about how, when I went to like the national level, then it had to be like an FDA nutrition label, and that co-packer knew how to do that, so they helped me. So that was
Got it.
great. So it's just because they want you to win too, because then you're going to get reorders.
Exactly. Exactly. So what did it look like once you were able to get your product on those first 21 store shelves? What was
Oh, you know
performance?
what was crazy about that is, so I was still living in this little town in Sedona of 3,000 people, and their warehouse for this store was in Anchorage, which was 3.5 hours away. So I baked all day long and put everything in boxes. And the boxes, I didn't have like counter ready display boxes. So I had like to take my box and like fold it so it looked counter ready, and like I taped on stuff that just said crazy cookies or something on the front of it that I had like made out of like cardstock so it looked professional, and taped it so it looked like it was on the box. Like I just reshaped everything, and I drove them all up to Anchorage, dropped them off. Then I drove all the way back, picked up my son from school, woke up the next morning, and they had sold out
What?
in one day. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I'm so tired. And so they reordered double, and then they sold out again. So that's when I'm like, I got to move to Anchorage. Like, there's got to be. And so I
Yeah.
went through one bakery, then two bakeries helped me, then three, then four. And one of the fourth one ended up being back in Saldana. So I'd have to drive 3 hours, 3.5 hours to pick them up, and then 3.5 hours to grab them. But I just didn't have the capacity to continue to grow that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was wild, wild times, I tell you.
What was the catalyst that had people buying them so quickly right off the shelf from lunch?
Well, I started out as boozy cookies. So when I got fraud from that selling my bar restaurant, and and lodge. In Alaska, when you sell a bar, you're not allowed to roll the alcohol over to the next person. You have to take it home or throw it away or whatever, and they have to buy it legally through the right people with their liquor license. And so I had a garage full of booze, and I saw a meme on Facebook that said vanilla extract is made of vodka, let's bake. And I thought, vanilla extract is made of vodka? I have a garage full of alcohol, how does this work? And so I started like doing all the research on it. Again, Google, like how to make extract, what do you do? And then I thought, I don't want to wait. It said like 3 months in a cupboard with some vodka and some vanilla beans. And then you put it in a dark cupboard, and in 3 months it's extract. I'm like, I don't have 3 months. Like I want this to go now. So I ended up researching how Instapots worked. And so then because Instapots had just come out then. And so I figured out how to make the extracts in about 45 minutes in my Instapot. And so in 3 days, I made every single alcohol I had into an extract, and so it pulls the alcohol out but leaves the flavor. So I had maple bacon whiskey cookies, I had pina colada with rum, I had pumpkin with Kahlua, I had all these boozy cookies. And so that's how I started, was the boozy cookie lady.
So was it the name on shelf that got people like intrigued to try, do you think?
I think so, because the first store that was the Brown Jug, they were a liquor store, so they wanted boozy cookies in their, even though there's no alcohol, they wanted them in their place. But then once I started expanding and like, Walmart or Target or whatever, they didn't want boozy cookies. So I'm like, okay, well then we'll just add vanilla and call it a day. So
I love that you figured out how to, I mean, who would even think like to figure out how to take the extract out of alcohol?
It was fight or flight. Like I needed to feed my son. I was going to do whatever. And I didn't have a lot of money. So I'm like, well, I got a bunch of booze. I don't have money, but I got booze. And I got an Instapot. Actually, I didn't own an Instapot. I borrowed one from a guy. Yeah, some guy. He let me borrow his. I think I still have his Instapot. I need to get that back to him.
Oh my gosh! So how long selling on the shelves of that first retailer before you decided that you wanted to go into another?
Well, I just started talking to coffee shops and all kinds of stuff. And then what had happened is I was still hustling pretty hard out of the trunk of my car too. I just every way you could sell cookies. And so I was at someone's house dropping off some cookies, and she said, "Have you ever thought about being on QVC?" And I said, "Well, everyone thinks about being on QVC." And she said, "Well, my friend's on it. Maybe she can help you get on it." And I said, "I need your friend's information." So she gave me this lady, Deborah's information. I called Deborah, and she said, "Well, you got to send me cookies first." I gave away more cookie samples, and I still do. Everyone was like, "Well, we're going to have to sample them first," and I get it. Like,
right.
They can't suck, but I'm like, come on now. Like one major brand, and I won't say who, but they needed me to ship out 13 different boxes to each of their buyers for a snack room in one of their areas. So I just sent out 13 dozen cookies, but they were also one of every flavor. And this was still when I was cooking out of my house. And so, man, and then they're like, "It's a pass for us." I'm like, oh my God, you just cost me like $500 in shipping and cookie. And I didn't have that then, but that's okay. I'll email them and remind them. But anyway, so with that said, I just kept going and going and going because I knew that they were selling and I knew that people loved them, and I just wanted to grow.
So did you get on QVC?
I did. I sold $30,000 in 8 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And a funny thing happened on there, because you're supposed to meet your QVC host before you go on. Like you have a meeting, they learn your story and all this stuff. Some lines were crossed, and I did not meet her until we were live on QVC, and it was during COVID. So it was like this, like a Zoom. And so just all of a sudden, 3, 2, 1, bam, we're both on there. I've never met this woman. She's never met me, and we're on at the same time. And it was a weird thing. I thought, man, and I didn't want to interrupt her, but I wanted to tell my story because she did not know my story. Like you could tell she hadn't really studied my brand. Like I wanted it done, but she did a beautiful job selling, because we did $30,000 in 8 minutes, but we should have sold out, and we could have sold out if we would have been able to visit first, I think.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
They invited me back quite a few times. But we can't seem to hit numbers right on that. QVC is a real interesting, they have an interesting flex on the amount of markup they expect the brand to do. And a lot of people say you have to look at it as you're going to break even and it's free marketing. And I don't feel like breaking even. So I work too hard.
That's what I was going to say is that mainly a marketing draw, like getting just more awareness of your brand.
Well, especially for food. I don't know for anyone else. And listen, I'm so grateful that I got to go on there. It was a dream come true. So don't get me wrong. And I would love to go on again if we could get the numbers right.
Yeah.
But it just is tricky now with like TikTok shop and Facebook Marketplace and all these different places, people going live on Instagram and all these things. I don't know that it's needed
It's
anymore
necessary.
because it's
Yeah.
I could do it on my own with my 100% margin. So
Yeah. What were you doing in those early days for brand awareness?
well, so once I was able to do the Oscars, then boom, that got on my website. And then Emmys, boom, got on my website. Then Wheel of Fortune, boom, that got on my website. And so it was just like all these different things I was doing. It was like, okay, now I did that, now I did that, now I did that. And so that's what I did for brand awareness. And then we would tag them on our media and tag them. And I thought, this is something I need to just keep trying to get in all these endorsements. So like the first 3 years, I focused on endorsements for the company. We were selling too, but I really focused on being like the cookie that famous people love and that people love,
Yeah.
and that it's enjoying and having fun with it and having influencers try them. And yeah, so that was like my focus was just building the brand first and then going into store. And it seemed to work. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a smart move too, because before you go into store, you want to have a community of people that are going to go in once it's on shelf to buy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were in some stores and some coffee shops within Alaska, and then you talked about going national. So what did that look like? What was the first national retailer, and how did you even get connected to them?
So if you are wanting to grow your brand, you have to do an expo. So we did an expo. There's also a website called RangeMe, RANGEME.com. And that is where stores go shopping for their next new favorite thing. And so I was on RangeMe, and you had to have like a certain amount of insurance, for liabilities or whatever. So in order to get the little blue check mark, you have to do all their due diligence. And it's not hard, it's just a lot, and so, but they have people that'll help you through it. So once you're on there, then they are partnered with a group called ECRM, and ECRM does expos, and their expos are different because, usually, like I just came from the sweets and snacks show and the fancy food show. All those expos are like a cattle call. So you're just like, hey, come over here. Hey, I'm over it. And it's just like, and I literally will grab cookies that people walk by and I'll just shove it in their bag and they won't even know. They'll just keep going. And I'm like, and they'll call me. I have this cookie. I don't know where it came from. It was in my bag. I'm like, yeah, I put it there. But anyway, but with the ECRM, they do it a little differently because you actually make appointments with stores and they come and sit down with you for 10 minutes or 20 minutes and they do a tasting and you tell them about your brand, and it's a lot more personable. That was that. And that's how I got in my first major store. And then I just kept doing expos and kept on Range Me. And like it said, you can submit for certain things. I submitted for a lot of things. So yeah.
So that's a great note in regards to the difference between an expo and a big event versus like having that kind of ECRM one-on-one time with the buyer that you can really talk about the product and your brand. Now, post to that, did you have another pitch, like a more formalized pitch, or was that the pitch that the buyers came back and said, yes, we want you in the store?
Yeah, no, that was the pitch.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would just say, I was a single mom down to my last $150 in a little tiny Alaska town, and in 3 years I became a national brand making gourmet cookies.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good pitch, and people seem to really resonate with it. And I'm working with a lot of really incredible brands right now that on licensing deals about doing like a girl boss segment and everything, and having these cookie kits and stuff for other little girls to make their own cookie companies. And I just want everyone to win. There's
Yeah.
8 billion people in the world. That's enough for everybody to win. Like we don't need to compete. We need to hold hands and do it together,
Right. Agreed. And let me just say that's super impressive. I mean, being a buyer myself, to be able to pitch at the ECRM and then get into a retail store without having a couple more meetings, that means that you really did deliver in regards to all of the things that they needed to say that, yes, this made sense for us to be in our
I think it helped me that I was like I owned restaurants. And so like when like a Cisco distributor would come in, or Food Services of America, they would do it the opposite way. So they were like showing me brands and I knew what stood out to me, like on the sales sheets, like what I wanted to hear, what kind of deal if and so I already knew that side of it. So now I'm like, well, what would I want to be submitted to me?
Yeah.
And so that helped me. I like colorful. I like black and white stripes. I like, I like fun things. All of my boba doodles here, I keep pointing to my background. And they all have dad jokes on the back of them because I want people to have an experience when they have my brand. I don't want them to just have another cookie. I want it to be fun. I want them to be like, oh my gosh, and go grab another bag and see, oh my gosh, these are hilarious too. It's important to me that people just love it.
Yeah. Even the names of all the cookies, I think are just unique and different, you know?
That was something I actually had them all named basic literal names, and I just changed them all one day. I was just like, what am I doing? Like the maple bacon whiskey cookie. I just called it maple bacon whiskey. And then the one that was like a s'mores cookie. I just called it a s'mores cookie. And I just thought this is boring. Like I want to do something that no one else has done. So I just Googled like trending terms. And so the maple bacon turned into the boss man. And then the s'mores turned into the straight fire. And then I did one with hot Cheetos and mangoes and named it the hot mess. So it's just like all fun. And there's one with Earl Grey tea, lavender, and lemon, and I called it the tea because you gotta gossip the tea.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just fun stuff. Royally awesome. All different fun
Yeah,
things.
I think too that makes like when a consumer is walking the shelf and they see that versus a basic name, it draws attention, right? And you want to see like what is that?
Definitely the hot mess gets people's attention. They're like, I'm a hot mess. Everyone always says that. I'm a hot mess. I'm buying this from my husband. He's a hot mess, or whatever. I'm like, do what you do. Everyone's a hot mess somewhere someday.
Was there any major difference from you being in local retail stores to then going into national retailers that you had to adjust to?
No, just more zeros and more pallets. I think my biggest flex is when I went from 10 pallets all at once for like a regular grocery chain to like getting on with Costco, and my opening order was 180 pallets. So that was like, oh, we're in the big show now. Like this is really happening. And so that was a flex. And
Yeah.
then it was like, dear Lord, please make these cookies sell and everyone loves them. Amen.
How did you prepare from just a drastic inventory change? How did you prepare your manufacturers?
Well, and that's been hard too. If you're growing at the rate that we are, because we were growing like this, and I say we because I have an awesome team now, but if you're growing like this, and now we're growing like this, like, and
Right.
it takes capital. Like every time there's a new launch, it takes new capital. We just got $1 million purchase order this morning. That's going to take some capital. I can't believe I got to say that out loud, but we just
That's
got $1
amazing.
million purchase order this morning. It's
That
about amazing.
deserves a clap. That is amazing.
I mean, hallelujah. Anyway, but that's going to take some capital to launch. So
Yeah.
then, and I've never done anything but friends and family raises on my personal Facebook. Like, anyone want to invest in a cookie company? Send. And then people are like, well, how much is it? I'm like, well, how much you got? Like, I don't care. It's like that.
Does that make you cry when you get like what you just said, like $1 million purchase order? Does
I
that
go into
just
shock at first, like, right, because it just literally, I'm telling you, it happened like 10 minutes ago. And so, yeah, we've been waiting for this purchase order, and we had an idea, but not that, it wasn't that number. This is about double the number that we thought it was going to be. And so I haven't had a moment. Like, I was like, I had to get ready, put some lipstick on, throw my hair in a bun, and get on here with you. So I will cry. When I was just at the Sweets and Snacks Expo, which I did, and they have the most innovative product of the year award, and I was like, I just want to be part of the like I knew they'd have it like on a shelf of all the people that were submitted, so that I just wanted to be on the shelf with the cool brands.
yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna submit my brand. That'll be super fun. I just created this cookie called the air fryer cookie, which I think is very innovative. And I figured out exactly how to do it, how long it's in an air fryer, what you get when it's done. And it was science behind it. Lots of Googling and then lots of air fryer hit and misses with my son who helped me. Anyway, but with that said, I ordered the packaging, and it's supposed to be a bag of 18 that will be in the freezer department. And it came in like a little tiny bag. I got like 200 little tiny bags.
Oh,
I
no.
ordered the wrong size because I was too busy. And so I was on the airplane in Atlanta getting ready to go to Minneapolis. No, where was I headed? Indianapolis to the Sweets and Snacks show, and they emailed me or texted me even at like 9 at night, and they're like, hey, we never got your submission. I said, I am so sorry. I was going to submit my air fryer cookie, and the bags came in wrong. And I just thought, can I just submit a boba doodle instead? Because I just was like, I don't know, I gotta do something. Yeah, and she said, sure, but we're going to need all of this. So we need a picture of it, and we need all the details on it. We need all the information on it emailed to us, and we need samples of it by 9 a.m. And right now it's like 9 p.m. And I get to my hotel like 2 a.m. Now I can't sleep because I'm so excited. And so then I wake up at 6:45. I think I got 2 hours of sleep. And I get down there because I had to be there in order to submit it in a certain amount of time. And this place is the biggest place in all the land. I mean, I'm telling you, it was so big. And girl, this body was not made for hiking. So I am sitting there like looking for it. And I get someone to help me. He takes me the wrong direction and we walk 10 minutes in the wrong
Oh,
direction.
God.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, what are we going to do? He goes, it's this way. And we just keep walking and walking and walking. And finally we get there. I drop off the 2 bags. I said, this is for submission for the Sweets and Snacks Innovative Product of the Year Awards or whatever. And she said, oh, sweetie, we need 32 samples, not just 2 samples. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. And she said, you have 15 minutes to get them here. And so now I'm running and I'm already tired. I haven't got sleep. And now and my booth is like way, like 2 expo areas over and all the way in the back. And now I've got a case of cookies, not light, and I'm running with it. And I get there with like 3 minutes to spare. And I looked at her in the eye. I was just like, here you go. And I turned around and right out the door, they had like these couches. And I sat on the couch and I had a pity party. I'm like, I'm so tired. And that sucks. And I can't believe, I'm just like, and I'm looking around at this expo and it's like Oreo and, Keebler and Khloe Kardashian has launched something. And then I'm like, and then there's me, and I'm just like, how is this? Why am I here? So I called my VP, Frank, and I said, Frank, I don't think we're supposed to be here. Like there are humongous brands here. There's Tate's Cookies and like all these brands, like Nabisco is here and like Little Debbie's. And I'm like, and then Molly B's, well, like, what the heck are we doing here? And he goes, what are you talking about? And I go, well, I'm like, they're huge. Like these booths, they have like neon lights coming from the ceiling. And I like got this backup thing. They're like, this is my booth, And he was like, but you're Molly B. And I said, I don't know what that means. And he said, you are fine. You're just tired. And I said, I'm very tired. And he said, everything's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. I said, okay. So I go to my booth. I set it up. I go to my hotel room. I lay down and I'm just done. I'm D-U-N, just done. And they call me in like 10 minutes after I finally fall back asleep. And they're like, and it was a phone number I didn't recognize. And I was like, I'm not going to answer it. And I thought, no, I'm going to answer it. So I answered it and they said, this is the Sweets and Snacks show. I thought, oh my God, I did my booth wrong. They're going to make me go back and redo my booth.
I thought you were going to say they want more samples.
Yeah, please, God. And she said, you are one of the top people for the most innovative product of the year. You're one of the finalists. So I'm like, what, me? Really? And she said, yeah. And I said, okay, so what does that mean? And she said, we need you here in an hour to the ballroom and I'm like, okay. So I'm like, now I'm painting makeup on. I'm like twirling my hair around. Like I am such a mess. I don't smell awesome. Like I'm just like perfuming it up and like finding something to wear. My feet have blisters on them. And I call Frank and I'm like, you're never going to guess what just happened. And he's like, what? And he goes, I don't know. Tell me, Molly. He always calls me Molly B. He's never called me Molly ever. It's always Molly B. Like, what's going on, Molly B? And I said, well, we're a finalist. And he goes, I told you you're supposed to be here. Okay. So we get there and there's like 500 people in this room and they have like, an MC and a step and repeat beside us of people winning and taking pictures or whatever. And then she introduces the lady on stage and her name is Sally. Well, I lost my mom 2 years ago and her name was Sally. So when I heard that, I said, I'm about to win. I just knew I'm about to, because that is my mama telling me that she's here with me.
Oh
and this is a God thing. And they announce all the finalists and there I am. And boom, I won the most innovative product of the year award. And I cried.
Wow.
And I was in complete shock. This just happened a few weeks ago. I'm still in shock over this. I beat out Keebler's. I beat out Tate's. I beat out. Yes, Legendary. I beat out like all of these major brands. No, girl, I'm like,
that story. So just the fact that number one, it wasn't even a product that you had planned to submit. You didn't feel like you were even to be there. I believe on LinkedIn, you went live and just talking about imposter syndrom.
Yeah, I had it so bad.
And then to actually win the entire thing
against all these brands that I buy, and that I know. And it was a God thing. Still.
Yeah. That's so amazing. I mean, your overall story just from launching in 2018 to now being in retail stores all across the country, but definitely it's not just luck because the story that you're telling is definitely one that you're out there really grinding and not taking no for an answer and really having a plan on how to develop and grow your business.
Yeah.
I love that.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, if you could just tell us where our listeners can actually buy and continue, of course, to support you.
Yeah. So it's pronounced Molly B's, just like it'd be apostrophe S, but I didn't want to be Molly BS. I wanted to be Molly BZ. So it's pronounced Molly B's. And you can get it at mollybz.com. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at walmart.com. You could get them at Walmart stores, Costco Canada right now. All of the world markets, and pretty soon Target stores really soon.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
exciting. So exciting. Thank you so much, Molly, for coming on. This is just a great conversation. And I think, for one, just for people that think I have a product that's in a category that's saturated, there's no opportunity for differentiation, there's no opportunity for me to break through because it's just me. I think hearing your story just really allows for like people to say, I can do it. So,
You can do it. I mean, if I would have thought, oh my gosh, I'm up against Oreo and all these huge brands or whatever, what's for you is for you. God's
yeah.
got you.
Yeah.
God is for you. No one could be against you.
I love it. I love this too. I always hear like, what is it? What's for you is for you and will never pass you.
That's it. What's for
Yep.
you is for you.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.